Hello all. Welcome to our deep learning project presentation on motion prediction for autonomous vehicles. My team members are Anoushka, Dheeraj, Shiva and Om. We are working on prediction of other vehicles' motions around an ego vehicle, which is a challenging problem. Autonomous vehicles need to predict the motion of surrounding agents to make informed decisions and avoid collisions. In the below block diagram, you can see sensor input and maps is the perception. Then, using this perception data, we detect the traffic agents. Then, we predict the agent motion, and the planning process helps the autonomous vehicles to take the path. Next slide, please. In the problem statement, we are working on a bird's eye view image to detect the past trajectories and other contextual information, such as the presence of traffic lights. We are using the dataset of woven planet for agent motion prediction. Next slide, please. The woven planet's motion prediction dataset is exhaustive sensor data of the autonomous vehicles and its surroundings. It consists of a L5 kit SDK, which integrates sensor data to raster and bird's eye view image. Further, the bird's eye view image consists of semantic map with lanes, crossings, and other vehicles, etc. Next slide, please. Now, in the dataset, each scene consists of 250 frames in total, and there are 100 such scenes. On the right hand side, you can see one example of a scene. Each scene has 25,000 frames, and each frame represents a single time step, which consists of multiple agents. This is pre-process. This then is pre-process the data to select the fewer agents by thresholding, and each frame is processed to generate masks, which generate a corresponding agent in each frame. Total frames post-processing are approximately 110,000. They also consist the past history trajectory information.
So as we have seen that we have a lot of data with us. So the questions arise as how we can use the bird's eye view images to predict the future trajectories for a given particular agent, and how can we use the history positions of agents to predict the future trajectories. And one question is that how can we integrate both the history positions and the bird's eye view images, that is combine both the spatial and temporal data to get better predictions. So the main question here we need to ask ourselves is what kind of architectures can we use to solve this problem? So since the data set consists of images, one of the go-to models would be a convolutional neural network. So we reviewed few literature, and then we see that prior work has explored use of many CNN models. So we have decided to use ResNet 50 as a baseline model for this task. So we used a pre-trained ResNet 50 to train on the 110,000 images, and then try to predict the agent's future trajectories. So the block diagram shows the workflow of the ResNet 50. So we input the rasterized image around the agent in consideration, and the ResNet 50 outputs the future trajectories of the given agent. So the input raster has to be deconstructed into multiple masks before it can be input into ResNet to the ResNet. So we see on the left, we have a bird's eye view image, which is an RGB image. So in this image, the green blob is the agent in consideration, and the blue blobs are the agents which are the surroundings of the agent in consideration. And we also have the semantic map of the road and the lanes and the pedestrian crossings. So we deconstruct this image into 5 individual channels. So the first channel would be the surrounding agents masks, which only consists of the agents that surround the agent in consideration, and the agent mask, which only has the agent in consideration. And then we have the road masks. There are 3 different masks for the roads, and for the first mask is consists of the lane data. This highlights the lanes of the road, and the second one highlights the lanes as well as the pedestrian crossings and other important features. And also the third mask only highlights the drivable road surface in the image. So we trained the ResNet 50 on the woven planets dataset using the bird's eye view images, and we can see that we have an average training loss, MSE loss of 12.29, and an average testing MSE loss of 4.49. So ResNet 50 actually performed very well for this task. The further results will be discussed by Shiva.
So after implementing the baseline, we can see the results which have been observed. So the purple trajectory, the purple line indicates the actual prediction, while the blue line indicates the predicted trajectories. So I mean, the purple line indicates the actual ground truth trajectories. So it can be seen that the ResNet 50 implementation is pretty accurate in predicting the trajectories of the agents. Next slide, please. Yeah, you can see some other cases for the implementation where it kind of deviates a little bit from the actual ground truth trajectories. So you can see that the agent kind of crosses the the road in the first case, which is not as desired, and even in the second case. So next slide, please. So we were wondering what was going wrong. I mean, in some of the edge cases which were not capturing what is desired in case of the baseline. So currently, history time step positions can be used in the baseline architecture by including them in the input channels. However, it's not clear how the sequential significance of the time series is used in such an implementation. So from one position leading to another, how it is particularly used, it's not very clear in the existing ResNet 50 implementation. So to capture the temporal dependencies of the agent behavior, a sequence-to-sequence model can be used. Once the sequence-to-sequence model gets to the final hidden layer, it will have captured the time series information well. So this hidden layer, in combination with the hidden spatial representations from ResNet 50, can be used as context vector for future trajectory prediction. So basically, we have a temporal encoder, which encodes the time information of the trajectory, while of the history trajectory, and we have a positional encoder, a spatial encoder, which encodes the spatial information of the image. So you can see that the spatial encoder is nothing but the ResNet 50 which we are using. So in the model architecture, the encoder takes the history time steps. It processes them in order to get the final hidden layer of the encoder. So, and in parallel, the input image will be fed into the ResNet 50, which will have the final fully connected layer. The final hidden layer of the RNN and the final fully connected layer of the hidden layer of the ResNet 50 will be concatenated, and then that will give rise to the context vector, and which can be used to decode the future trajectories of the agent. Next slide, please. So the encoder architecture and the decoder architecture have been detailed here. So encoder architecture consists of the fundamental units, which are GRU cells, which are used to capture the hidden states from the positions. So the history positions are indicated as H1, H2, H3, and so on till H50, which are 50 history positions. The GRU cells process the history positions in order to give rise to the hidden state vector. And you can see the decoder, which consists of several decoder cells. So each decoder cell is consisting of a GRU cell, and after it processes, like whatever the 50th prediction which we have, that will be input to the GRU cell, and that input will be converted into the future output, which future outputs, which are the F1, F2, F3, and so on till F50. Next slide, please. So the results will be discussed by Anoushka.
Implementing our model architecture, we achieved a final average training MSE loss of 60.3 and final average testing MSE loss of 64.5, as it can be seen from the loss curve, which is plotted here. Next slide. Moving on, this is the visualization of the predicted trajectory versus the actual trajectory as it can be seen in the images. The purple trajectory represents the actual trajectory, while the blue trajectory represents the predicted trajectory. In the first image instance, we can see that the actual and the predicted trajectory, the actual trajectory is longer in comparison to the predicted trajectory, but apart from that, the predictions are correct. In the second image, we can see that the actual and the predicted trajectories are the same, that is, our model is predicting the trajectories accurately. Next slide, please. However, in this second image, we can see that the purple trajectory remains stationary in one spot, indicating that the car is not moving forward. However, the blue trajectory shows a small amount of movement, indicating that our model has made a prediction that the car is moving slightly. The results are not as good as baseline implementations, not exactly what we had expected. So, moving on, I'd like to discuss some ways in which we can improve our current results. We have been training our model on a small data set due to the computational limitations, but to see significant improvements, we can train it on a larger data set. However, this would also require better computations. So we need to ensure that we have access to enough computational resources to train that on a larger data set. In addition to this, we need to perform better hyperparameter tuning. The hyperparameters such as number of epochs and learning rate are crucial to the performance of our model. By optimizing these hyperparameters, we can achieve better accuracy and make our model more efficient. Furthermore, we are currently working on implementing attention maps on CNN. This will help us focus on more important features of the image, for instance, the part of the image that is in the field of view of the agent. By implementing attention maps, we can improve the performance of our model significantly. Thank you.